Hi Virgo, and welcome to your February 2024 horoscope. Even though February is a short month, there is a lot happening. And there's a lot happening with almost all of the planets, which is a bit unusual. Usually I think we have a bit of a theme or a focus each month, but this month it's a bit of everything. So that means that no matter if you're somebody that's more influenced by Mars transits or Venus transits or Pluto transits, there's going to be a day for everybody sometime in February where they feel some strong emotions and some stuff is being brought up. But let's get into the day by day for February. On the 6th of February, the North and the South Node are being squared by Venus and trined and sextiled by the Sun. The nodes are in your 2nd and 8th house, Venus is in your 5th, and the Sun in your 6th. All of us as a collective for another year are learning about setting boundaries for ourselves. And on this day, your ego might especially be loving that and sort of feeding off of that amazing energy when you set a boundary and you say no to others. But at the same time, because Venus is part of this conversation, you might really be coming to the realization that you can't always do that. You cannot exist in this world alone. Relationships are quite important to us as humans. And sometimes that means that compromise is necessary. So you're starting off the month with an interesting challenge to be able to find a balance between the two. On the 7th of February, we have a lot of things happening. And we bring Uranus and Neptune into the conversation. So the Sun is squaring Uranus, Venus is trining Uranus, and Mars is sextiling Neptune. This beautiful sextile between Mars and Neptune means that you're taking some inspired action. Actions that seem to flow, seem to sort of feel like you're channeling them from above, that feel really aligned and really in tune with who you are and the things that you want for yourself in this life. And because Mars is in your 5th house, these could be types of actions surrounding to fun and creativity. I could even imagine that you feel inspired to all of a sudden look into a new hobby that you've never heard of before, you never thought to try before, and it turns out to be something that you love with and that sort of rejuvenates your spark for life. Whatever action it is that you're taking, though, Virgo, it might look to others as if it's a bit weird. It might look to those that are not that close to you as if you're a bit unique or a bit sort of outside of the box. We are talking about Uranus after all. Keep in mind that those that are close to you will see that these actions are actually really beautiful and really in line with who you are. On the 9th of February, there's a new moon in Aquarius in your 6th house. Pluto recently entered your 6th house. Notice if there was anything that happened on January 20th, 21st, 22nd in regards to your health, in regards to your routine, in regards to perhaps your day-to-day work. Because whatever was triggered on that day, you're given a sort of chance to start anew. So if you noticed on that day that you wanted to do something differently, you wanted to show up in a different way, you wished you had made different decisions, then during this new moon, it's a wonderful time to do that and begin this new cycle in that area of your life. On the 12th of February, Venus in your 5th house is sextiling Neptune in your 7th house. You've been getting quite a big lesson in the 5th house for a while now, with Pluto being there for the last almost 15 years, I think. And like I said, it has already transitioned out of your 5th house. It's now in your 6th house. But now that on this day, Venus is also about to leave that house and it's making this beautiful aspect to Neptune, I really see this as a day where it finally feels like you get it. It finally feels like you get the lessons that Pluto was trying to teach you there about your creativity, about your playfulness. And it feels like you are finally taking inspired and aligned action around the themes of that fifth house. On the 13th of February, Mars leaves your fifth house and enters your sixth house, or Aquarius. And because Pluto is right at 0 degrees of Aquarius, right as Mars enters, it conjuncts Pluto. This can be a very powerful day. Mars and Pluto together, there's a lot of passion, there's a lot of energy, a lot of action. Be careful on this day that you don't overwork yourself, because you can tend to have this sort of energy that never gives out. And also be careful that you're fighting the fights that matter. There can be so much energy sometimes that you tend to focus on fighting petty fights or worrying about things that actually won't matter in 5 years. So allow yourself a minute to reflect if the fight that you're about to fight, doesn't literally have to mean a physical or a verbal fight, is worth your time and energy. Just 3 days later, on the 16th of February, Venus does the same as Mars. It enters your sixth house and conjuncts Pluto. It's almost as if somebody from your relationships is almost like triggering your routine, is triggering you around your health, and it can feel quite emotional. Remember that Pluto is going to be in your sixth house for a while, so there's no need to resolve anything just yet. Just take note of what's happening, take note of what's coming up, and then once it feels a little bit less emotionally charged, you can zoom out and reflect on what the lessons are trying to teach you. On the 19th of February, the Sun enters Pisces and your seventh house. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. So in a way, this is the zodiac New Year's, or at least in March, it will be the zodiac New Year, because the Sun will enter the first sign of the zodiac, which is Aries. So consider from February 19th onwards, sort of the last month of the year, use it to reflect. Reflect on what you want to let go of from the last year. And specifically for you, Virgo, what you want to let go of in regards to your relationships. Are there relationships that you want to let go of? Are there habits or ways that you show up in your relationships that you want to let go of? On February 21st, Mars and Venus conjunct in your sixth house. Because just a couple of days earlier, as they entered your sixth house, they both sort of hit Pluto on their way in. And now they're together in your sixth house. I do think that this day will also bring up some of those Plutonian themes. Venus and Mars together can also mean that it's, a lot of high emotions, a lot of intense emotions, and that you're feeling a lot of passion and determination around the things that you hold dear and the things that are important to you in your life, especially around your routine and your health. On February 24th, there is a full moon in Virgo. During this full moon, Venus is also squaring Jupiter. So Venus in your sixth house is squaring Jupiter in your ninth house. The sun is shining a bright light on the moon, and it's revealing and giving you an insight into something around who you are and your identity that you were a bit unclear about before. This might bring a sense of relief because you finally understand something that maybe you were trying to grapple with for a while. And this can make you feel like, you can relax, you could have a good time, you could do fun things, which are, of course, amazing. One thing to note, though, is that during this full moon, Venus and Jupiter are square, which can lead to some overextension, some overindulgence in pleasures of life. So just be a little bit on the lookout for not overdoing it during this full moon. And just as Venus squared Jupiter, now it's Mars' turn. On the 26th of February, Mars also squares Jupiter. So Mars is the planet of action, Jupiter is the planet of optimism, and together they can make us quite optimistic about things, and we want to just take action right then and there. So whatever seems like it's an amazing idea regarding your health or your routine, I would just advise to take a day or two, let it sink in, reconsider a bit later if it still seems like an amazing idea. And then if it does, go ahead and action it away. On the 28th of February, the Sun and Saturn are conjunct in your 7th house. So Saturn entered your 7th house about a year ago now, and it's going to stay there for another year and a bit. And you might have been feeling a lot of responsibilities in your one-on-one relationships. And on this day, it might really feel like these responsibilities are weighing on you and preventing you from shining your light bright. It can feel a bit pessimistic, a bit like there's no hope at the end of the tunnel. But keep in mind that all Saturn wants for us is to persevere, to keep showing up, not to give up, to put in the hard work. And eventually Saturn will also reward us. And we finish off the month on February 29th with actually the same way that we started the month. We started the month with a square between Venus and the nodes, and we end off the month with a trine and a sextile between the Venus and the nodes. So whatever sort of opportunity we were giving at the beginning of the month, if we responded in an aligned way, we've reflected, we've integrated it, I do think that the month sort of ends on a beautiful integration of that same theme, of that same story. It's almost like we finish off the month finally understanding that being vulnerable with others actually contributes to a more meaningful and deep understanding, connection, and relationship. So Virgo, there's a lot happening with your relationships, and there's a lot happening with your routine, with your health. Make sure that you take care of yourself first. As a Virgo, you love to serve others. But seeing that there's a lot happening in your 6th house, it's important that you also look after yourself as well. I hope you enjoyed this horoscope, Virgo. I hope you look forward to February as well. And if you want to make sure you catch the March horoscope, then make sure you subscribe. I hope to see you again soon.